If your hooks suck and they take hours to write, then it's likely because you don't understand the 4 psychological triggers that get attention. So I've developed a viral framework that taps into each of these triggers and can be recreated in about 3 minutes using AI. And to prove that this actually works, check out this video right here. So this video has 800,000 plus views and is a 29x outlier for one of my clients. Now I'm not guaranteeing you're going to get the same results, but if you run an educational channel, this is a great framework to have on hand that you can just whip out when you need to write a hook quickly. So in this video, I'm going to reveal exactly what this framework is, the 4 psychological triggers it taps into, and how you can use it to pump out viral hooks in less than 3 minutes using AI. All right, so I'm in Claude, and I just want to quickly show you how insane this framework is when you pair it with AI. So let's just say I'm creating a video titled "How to Quit Smoking in Less Than 7 Days." So as you can see, I've created a Claude project, basically following the framework that I'm going to break down. So here's some hook examples of that framework. Here's the framework actually, broken down exactly how I think through it and all that kind of stuff. And then some script examples, just so it matches my tone and style and everything like that. So let's just hit enter and let's see what we get. All right, so Claude has cooked up an absolutely insane hook. Let me just quickly read through it and you tell me whether it's a great hook or not. So if you've tried to quit cigarettes before and failed, it's probably because you've been fighting nicotine addiction the wrong way, relying on willpower alone when your brain is literally rewired to crave cigarettes. But there's a neuroscience-backed method that actually reprograms your brain's reward system in under a week, making cigarettes feel as appealing as eating cardboard. This is the exact method that helped John, a two-pack a day smoker for 15 years, quit blah, blah, blah. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 3 brain chemicals that keep you hooked, why going cold turkey has a 95% failure rate, the hour-by-hour breakdown, blah, blah, blah. So as you can see, this hook is literally 95% finished. It's absolutely insane. But here's the truth. You're going to have 0 chance of getting outputs like this if you don't understand the psychology behind the framework. So before we get too deep into the AI stuff, I want to start with what actually makes a great hook, what generates curiosity, and what triggers people to stop scrolling and say, I need to watch this video. Well, about 3 years ago, I desperately wanted answers to these questions. So I ended up handing over $15,000 to a random guy I found on YouTube who claimed to know the answers, and what he shared with me has changed the way I write hooks forever. So I'd been copywriting for about 3 months and my hooks were dry, boring, and they just had 0 emotion, and I couldn't figure out why. I would just get so frustrated with myself. I'd literally spend hours writing my hooks, rewriting, but they'd still just have no emotional pull. So after months of this and my blood at boiling point, I finally realized I needed to bring in an expert, someone who could rip apart my writing and tell me exactly why my hooks were so shit. So I ended up handing over a big chunk of my savings to some random copywriter I found on YouTube. But this guy wasn't just your average copywriting bro selling a course. This dude was the real deal. His copy had produced over $1 billion in sales. So if there's anyone that was going to be able to tell me why my hooks were so shit and help me grab attention, it was this guy. And what he shared with me is the exact reason why I've been able to produce millions of views and dollars for my clients on YouTube. Basically, he explained to me that there's a 4-part psychological framework that generates curiosity and gets attention. And when you understand how this framework actually works, you'll be able to write killer hooks for any product or video literally for the rest of your life. Now, I have slightly adapted this framework to make sure that it applies to YouTube videos, but the core principles are all the same. So I call it the PSPR framework. This stands for problem, solution, proof, result. So there's a natural way that the brain processes information, and these 4 triggers hijack them to get attention. In fact, if you're still watching this video right now, then it worked on you, because I used it at the start of this video in my hook. So let me break it down and I'll show you exactly how it works. All right, so the first step I did was I called out a problem. So I said, if your hooks suck and they take hours to write, then it's likely because you don't know the 4 psychological triggers that get attention. So here, I'm just calling out a specific pain point that I know that you guys relate to, so it stirs up emotion and gets you excited for a solution. And then next here, I've teased the solution. So here I said, so I've developed a viral hook framework that taps into each of these triggers and can be reproduced in about 3 minutes using AI. So here I've called out a problem. This stirs up emotion, gets you excited for a solution. Then I've teased a new and unique solution. So now you're like, cool, what is this framework? Let me keep watching to find out. Now, this is where most creators stop, but if you want your hooks to punch 10 times harder, then you need to add in proof. So I did this by saying, and to prove that it actually works, check out this video right here. AI helped me write this hook, blah, 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 has 800K views, 29x outlier. So proof just makes your solution sound more real, right? If you're promising some new and unique solution, people kind of glaze over it unless you actually provide proof that it works. So then finally, I promise the result of the video. I do this by thinking about the top 3 questions that my audience is going to have around my title. And this just helps me make sure that I'm going to fulfill on the expectation of why they click the video. So I've done this by saying, here's what this framework is, why it's so powerful, and how you can use it to pump out hooks in less than 3 minutes. So this is just confirming the click, which is a really important part of your hook. All right, so now you understand the psychology behind this framework, which is a super important step. Now we can actually talk about how to recreate it using AI in just a few minutes. All right, so here I am in Claude, and like I said, I've got a few things in this project. So the first one is some PSPR hook examples. Then I have the PSPR hook SOP, just explaining, how I write these hooks. And then I've got a few script inspirations. And now normally I'd also have a target audience document here because, if I'm writing scripts for my own or hooks for my own channel and stuff like that, I want it to be able to pull specific pain points that I know that you guys are experiencing. But for this case, because I'm going to show you a few different random examples, I don't actually have the target audience thing here. But let me just show you again how freaking powerful this is when you combine this framework with AI and how quickly you can write a hook. So the first video I'm going to write is why your tomato plants keep dying and how to fix it. So I picked the gardening niche because I actually enjoy gardening myself, but also because like I said, I just want to prove that this works in any niche. So let's hit enter and see what we get. All right, so it's an absolutely insane hook that it's just produced. Let me read through it and we can break it down. So if your tomato plants keep wilting, turning yellow, or dying no matter what you do, then you're probably making one of these 3 critical mistakes that kill 80% of homegrown tomatoes. But here's the thing, once you know what these mistakes are, you can fix them in less than 24 hours using supplies you probably already have at home. I used to lose entire crops every summer until I discovered these simple fixes. Now look at this. These are my tomato plants from last week, over 40 pounds of tomato, blah, blah, blah. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 3 deadly mistakes that are killing your tomato plants, the exact step-by-step fix, and one weird trick that doubled my tomato yield. So absolutely insane. Like I said at the beginning as well, these hooks that this prompt and framework produces are basically 90% finished. Like I could go in here and literally tweak this in 10 minutes and have a pretty insane hook that's ready to go. And this is someone who writes scripts every single day. If you guys literally are just getting started on YouTube, or maybe you're not an expert writer, the fact that you can produce hooks this good is absolutely insane. Like it clearly follows our framework perfectly. Like as you can see, if your tomatoes keep wilting, turning yellow, or dying, that's calling out the problem. We're teasing a solution. Once you know what these mistakes are, you can fix them in less than 24 hours using supplies you already have at home. Amazing, teasing the solution, getting people excited for, what these supplies are and how to solve this problem. Amazing proof element. I used to lose entire crops. Now I get over 40 pounds of tomatoes from just 6 plants and they're still producing. And then teasing, what's to come in the video. So absolutely insane hook. Now you can 100% go and recreate this prompt by literally just using what I've covered already in this video. But if you want me to guide you step by step and actually build the prompt for you, plus review your script for an hour, then check the link in my description where you can book a one-on-one call with me. But either way, let's keep moving. All right, so let's take a look at another example. Let's say I'm creating a video titled How to Lose 5 Kilos of Belly Fat in 90 Days. So Claude has produced some absolutely amazing results again, so let me read through it. If you've been trying to lose belly fat but nothing seems to work, it's probably because you're focusing on cardio and crunches when the real problem is your insulin timing. But here's what nobody tells you. You can lose 5 kilos of belly fat in 90 days by simply shifting when you eat, not what you eat, using a protocol that takes less than 2 minutes to set up. Like how good? That's just absolutely insane. So you can see here, we're calling out the problem. If you've been trying to lose belly fat but nothing seems to work, I don't know if insulin timing is a real legitimate thing. So obviously you want to make sure that, what Claude's saying is true, and you can always, change this stuff down here to make sure it's accurate. Now we're teasing the unique solution, which is amazing. You know, you can lose 5 kilos of belly fat in 90 days by simply shifting when you eat, not what you eat, using a protocol that takes less than 2 minutes to set up. Now, you'll notice that in my in the gardening hook just before, I also had a little line like this, and I call these friction reducers. Basically, what these do is your audience has a problem they're experiencing and there's a desired result or transformation that they want to cause for themselves. And our goal, especially in the hook, is to reduce the amount of friction between those 2 points, because that's going to create desire and make them want to watch the rest of your video. So that's exactly why I add in these little lines here, which is all in the prompt of or the prompt that I created for Claude around this hook. So then we're just giving the audience some proof that the solution actually works, and then promising a result by saying things like why traditional dieting actually makes belly fat worse, the exact eating schedule that melts belly fat while you sleep, and the one morning trick that accelerates fat loss by 300%. So as you can see, this hook is literally 95% finished. You just got to make sure that it's actually accurate. You know, you'd obviously replace the proof elements, but other than that, it's pretty much ready to go. All right, now for just some shits and giggles, let's do a completely random one to prove once and for all that this hook framework can literally work in any educational niche. Doesn't matter what you're making videos about, whether it's woodworking, fitness, or knitting, as you're about to see, this framework is going to work. So let's say we're in the knitting niche and we want to write a video titled How to Speed Knit a Cozy Warm Christmas jumper in less than 30 days. If you've always wanted to knit a Christmas jumper but think it takes months of work and advanced skills, you're using outdated techniques that make everything 10 times harder than it needs to be. Here's what changed everything for me: a speed knitting method using chunky yarn and oversized needles that lets you create a cozy, professional looking jumper in less than 30 days, even if you only knit for 30 minutes a day. Amazing, amazing hook. Touches on all the important points that we've already covered, the psychology behind what actually makes a great hook. So for example, you know, if you've always wanted to knit a cozy Christmas jumper but think it takes months of hard work, now I don't know if that's a legitimate problem in the knitting niche. You'd obviously change it. You can easily swap this out for any problem that you know that your audience is experiencing. And then, you know, here's my speed knitting method using chunky yarn and oversized needles. So this is really great that Claude's given us a specific reason why this solution is logically solves the problem that we're talking about. So, you know, people hearing chunky yarn and oversized needles, it kind of makes sense. Oh, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense why we'd be able to knit a jumper faster. And then again, we have the, you know, removing friction by saying, you know, you can do this even if you only knit for 30 minutes a day. So then you just got to add in the proof elements. Like I said before, you can literally just swap this out with your own personal results, or if you have a program already and you've got results from students, you can add those in there. And then we're just promising the results and teasing what's going to come in the video by saying the exact yarn and needle combo that cuts knitting time by 75%, my foolproof pattern that looks complex but is secretly just one stitch repeated, blah, 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 blah. So absolute fire hook that's ready to go. So now that you understand what actually makes a great hook and you understand the framework behind it, all that's left to do is go and implement this yourself. But if you want me to guide you step by step on how to actually build a prompt like this for your own channel so that you can spit out viral hooks just like the ones I've covered in this video in just a few minutes, then like I said, I'm opening up one-on-one calls where you can book an hour call with me where I'll go through everything we've covered in this video. We can talk about scripts that you're working on or any questions you have around the entire script writing process. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave a link in the description, but failing that, I hope you got value from this video and I'll see you in the next one.